People often mistake a Sigma empath's silence for weakness, their sensitivity for fragility, and their compassion for something that can be broken. They watch the empath endure betrayal, heartbreak, disappointment, and emotional exhaustion, believing each blow will finally shatter them. But what they never see is the transformation happening beneath the surface. Every wound sharpens their intuition. Every setback strengthens their boundaries. Every moment of pain forces them to discover a part of themselves they didn't know existed. Others expect them to fall apart, yet the Sigma empath rises not in spite of the hurt, but because of it. Their resilience is quiet, but it is unstoppable. The world underestimates them because their growth doesn't happen loudly. They don't explode. They don't seek revenge. They don't perform their healing for anyone to witness. They retreat into solitude, disappear into reflection, and rebuild themselves from the inside out. In those silent seasons, they strip away illusions, release attachments, and release the versions of themselves that were built around pleasing others. What returns is someone wiser, stronger, harder to manipulate, and impossible to break in the same way twice. People who once dismissed them now find themselves confused because the person they expected to crumble has risen with a power that feels almost untouchable. Before you go deeper, I want to ask you something personal. Did your biggest transformation come after someone hurt you or underestimated you? Tell me in the comments. Your story might inspire someone who's still in their silent rebuilding phase. And if this message felt like it spoke directly to your soul, make sure you subscribe to Brainy Empath. This is where we decode the strength behind your sensitivity. If you watch to the very end, type reborn so I know you're one of the Sigma empaths who rose when everyone expected you to break. They transform pain into self-awareness instead of collapsing under it. Sigma empaths don't break the way people expect them to. When life hits them with betrayal, disappointment, or emotional chaos, they don't fall apart, they fall inward. Their first instinct is not destruction, but introspection. While others drown in pain, Sigma empaths dissect it, trace its origins, and study its lessons. They sit with their wounds in silence, not to suffer, but to understand. They ask themselves why something hurt, what it revealed, what it awakened, what it demanded them to see. Pain becomes their teacher, not their prison. And in that inner world where most people would crumble, Sigma empaths begin the slow but powerful process of self-awareness, transforming the breaking point into a turning point. What separates them is how deeply they feel and how deeply they analyze what they feel. When someone betrays them, they don't waste energy on revenge. They examine the patterns, the ignored red flags, the intuition they silenced. When someone leaves them, they don't collapse into loneliness. They explore the parts of themselves they gave away too freely. When life disappoints them, they don't lose hope. They uncover the expectations that were never realistic to begin with. Every emotional wound becomes a doorway inward. Every heartbreak becomes a revelation about who they are and who they are becoming. The pain doesn't shrink them, it expands them. It gives them clarity, depth, and a new level of emotional intelligence that makes them impossible to fool in the same way again. This transformation doesn't happen in the spotlight. It happens in solitude, in the quiet nights where they replay moments with brutal honesty, in the mornings where they choose growth over bitterness, in the days where they slowly rebuild their sense of self. They emerge from pain with a sharper intuition, stronger boundaries, and a deeper understanding of their emotional landscape. Instead of collapsing, they rise with a new sense of identity, someone who knows their worth, someone who trusts their instincts, someone who doesn't apologize for their sensitivity but uses it as a guide. The pain they endured doesn't break them, it awakens them. By the time they rise, the world barely recognizes them. The version that endured the hurt is gone, replaced by someone wiser, steadier, and more aligned with their true self. They don't return bitter, they return aware. They don't carry resentment, they carry insight. And the people who expected them to fall apart realize, too late, that the Sigma empath they tried to break has transformed into someone stronger than ever. Their resilience is not loud, but it is profound. They don't collapse under pain, they rise through it. They rebuild in solitude, becoming stronger than before. When the world expects a Sigma empath to crumble, they quietly retreat into the one place where their strength is reborn, solitude. They don't look for distractions, validation, or temporary comfort. They disappear from the noise and return to themselves. In that stillness, they begin to gather the broken pieces of their heart, not to put them back the way they were, but to reforge them into something unbreakable. Solitude becomes their sanctuary, the space where they can grieve without judgment, reflect without interruption, and rebuild without influence. Others see their silence and assume they're defeated, but inside that silence, something powerful is happening. They are growing into a version of themselves they were always meant to become. This rebuilding process is slow, deliberate, and deeply internal. Sigma empaths examine every wound with honesty, allowing themselves to feel the pain fully instead of suppressing it. They ask themselves why they trusted the wrong person, why they allowed certain behaviors, why they ignored their intuition. But they don't stay in self-blame. They turn each realization into wisdom, each regret into clarity, each heartbreak into emotional armor. They shed old habits, old illusions, old attachments that no longer serve their evolution. And as they do, they begin to stand taller inside themselves, even before the world can see it. While most people seek comfort in others, Sigma empaths find power in being alone. Their solitude is not loneliness, it's restoration. It gives them space to realign with their instincts, to hear their inner voice again, to rediscover the strength they gave away piece by piece. They fill the empty spaces within them not with distractions, but with self-awareness, boundaries, and a deeper understanding of their emotional needs. They rebuild their identity on their terms, and because this transformation is rooted in truth, not ego, the strength they gain lasts far longer than any temporary boost from the outside world. By the time they step back into life, they're nearly unrecognizable. Calmer, clearer, tougher, wiser. The people who expected them to collapse are stunned by their resilience. They rise not with aggression, but with quiet certainty. Not with pride, but with inner peace. Their solitude didn't break them, it rebuilt them. And the person who emerges from that silence is stronger, sharper, and more self-assured than the version that walked into it. Sigma empaths rise because solitude transforms them in ways the world never sees until it's too late. Every betrayal sharpens their intuition and strengthens their boundaries. Sigma empaths don't walk away from betrayal as the same person. Something inside them shifts, not in bitterness, but in awareness. Every time someone lies to them, uses them, underestimates them, or takes their kindness for granted, their intuition sharpens like a blade being reforged in fire. They begin to notice patterns others miss, intentions others ignore, and energies others cannot read. Betrayal doesn't blind them, it opens their eyes wider. It refines their emotional intelligence, teaching them exactly who deserves access to their heart and who never should have been allowed near it. While others expect them to fall apart, Sigma empaths rise with clearer instincts, stronger insight, and an inner radar that becomes nearly impossible to deceive again. This sharpening of intuition happens quietly, deep beneath the surface where their emotions process truth with brutal honesty. They replay the betrayal not to dwell in pain, but to understand it. They study where their trust was misplaced, where the manipulation began, where the red flags were ignored, and with every realization, their boundaries grow stronger, firmer, more intentional. Sigma empaths do not build walls, they build gates. Gates that open only for sincerity, consistency, and emotional truth. Gates that close automatically when someone's energy feels off. Betrayal teaches them to trust their instincts the first time, not the 10th. It teaches them that intuition is not a whisper to ignore. It is a warning meant to protect their spirit. As they grow through each wound, their emotional landscape transforms. They start recognizing toxic patterns early, sometimes from the very first interaction. They sense manipulation before words are even spoken. They can feel when someone's affection is conditional or when someone's motives are hollow. And because betrayal once cut them deeply, they no longer apologize for protecting themselves. They no longer justify disrespect. They no longer stay where they are not valued. Every betrayal becomes a message that shapes them into someone more discerning, more empowered, more connected to their inner truth. Their boundaries become not barriers of fear, but structures of self-respect. By the time they rise from their pain, they are unrecognizable to those who once underestimated them. The version of themselves that tolerated disrespect is gone. The version that ignored red flags is gone. The version that allowed love to override intuition is gone. What remains is a Sigma empath who sees people with startling clarity and protects their heart with quiet, unshakable strength. Betrayal didn't break them, it built them into someone who will never be broken the same way again. They rise because they learn, not because they seek revenge. Sigma empaths don't rise from pain fueled by rage or the desire to prove someone wrong. Their ascent is quieter, deeper, and far more transformational. When someone wounds them, they don't waste their energy plotting how to get even. They redirect that energy inward, toward understanding the lesson hidden inside the hurt. Their growth is not born from vengeance, it is born from revelation. They study the experience, not the offender. They look at what the pain awakened, not what it destroyed. And because of this, their rise is not temporary or superficial. It is rooted in wisdom, shaped by clarity, and guided by a new version of themselves that the world never saw coming. Where others would crumble or lash out, Sigma empaths pause. They reflect. They feel deeply, yes, but they also analyze their emotions with remarkable honesty. They ask themselves what the situation taught them about trust, about boundaries, about their own patterns of giving too much or ignoring their intuition. They learn where their spirit bends and where it breaks. They learn what they must release and what they must protect. Every painful experience becomes a blueprint for transformation. They grow not because someone hurt them, but because the hurt revealed the next version of who they are meant to become. Their resilience is not a reaction, it is an evolution. This learning is what sets them apart. Revenge ties a person to the past, but Sigma empaths refuse to stay there. They don't want to repeat cycles. They want to outgrow them. They don't want to return the pain. They want to rise above it. Their healing process strips away illusions, strengthens their emotional core, and solidifies the boundaries they once lacked. With each painful chapter, they gather insight that turns into strength, clarity that turns into confidence, and self-awareness that turns into unshakable character. By the time they rise, they have become someone even they did not expect, wiser, calmer, stronger, and more aligned with their true identity. And when they rise, the world notices, not because they come back louder or angrier, but because they return with a quiet power that cannot be touched. The people who expected them to break are left stunned, unable to understand how someone so gentle could become so unbreakable. What they don't see is that the Sigma empaths never sought revenge in the first place. They sought understanding, they sought growth, they sought themselves. And that is why they rise higher than anyone ever imagined, because their strength comes from learning, not from trying to hurt the ones who hurt them. Their resilience is silent, but it produces a version of them no one can break again. Sigma empaths don't rebuild themselves with loud declarations or dramatic reinventions. Their resilience happens in silence, in the quiet hours when no one is watching, in the private moments where the world thinks they've fallen apart. But that silence is where their power grows. They don't announce their healing. They don't publicize their progress. They simply rise, slowly and steadily, becoming someone stronger than the version that was wounded. Their resilience is not made of noise or performance. It is made of reflection, patience, and inner strength. And by the time they return to the world, they've transformed into someone no betrayal, no disappointment, no manipulation can ever shatter again. This silent resilience is forged from every moment they chose themselves after being overlooked, every boundary they rebuilt after being crossed, every truth they accepted even when it hurt. They sit with their pain instead of running from it. They allow it to teach them, shape them, refine them. They learn how to identify people who drain them, how to protect their energy, how to trust their intuition without hesitation. Slowly, they shed old versions of themselves, the one who tolerated too much, the one who forgave too quickly, the one who put others first even when it broke them. They emerge from each trial sharper, wiser, and more emotionally grounded than before. While others expect them to come back fragile, they return fortified. Their silence becomes their training ground, their solitude becomes their sanctuary. And during that time alone, they develop a resilience that changes the way they move through the world. They stop explaining themselves to people who never listened. They stop giving chances to people who only take. They stop investing in relationships that cost them their self-worth. Their heart remains soft, but their boundaries become firm. Their empathy remains deep, but their tolerance becomes selective. They learn to love without losing themselves, and that shift alone makes them nearly unbreakable. By the time they rise, people barely recognize them. The same person who once gave endlessly now guards their energy with confidence. The same soul that once absorbed everyone's pain now chooses peace over chaos. The same heart that once broke easily now beats with a strength built from truth, clarity, and self-respect. Their resilience doesn't make them harder, it makes them whole. And no one can break someone who learned how to rebuild themselves from the inside out. Stigma empaths rise quietly, but the version that emerges from that silence is untouchable, unshakable, and stronger than anyone ever expected. Being underestimated becomes the fuel for their transformation and growth. Sigma empaths know what it feels like to be overlooked, dismissed, or underestimated by the very people they once supported. Their quiet nature, their deep sensitivity, and their calm presence often make others assume they're weak, fragile, or easy to break. But what those people never realize is that every underestimation becomes a spark, a quiet ignition that pushes the Sigma empath into their next evolution. They don't respond with anger, and they don't waste time proving themselves to anyone. Instead, they absorb the doubt, the disrespect, and the low expectations, and they transform that energy into something powerful: growth. Every moment someone believes they won't rise becomes the exact reason they rise higher than ever. This transformation begins silently. When a Sigma empath is underestimated, they retreat inward, not to collapse, but to gather strength. They reflect on why certain people doubted them, why they allowed certain energies into their life, and what parts of themselves they've been suppressing to make others comfortable. In that clarity, they realize something life-changing. The world didn't see their power because they were hiding it, to protect people who didn't deserve that shield. And once that awareness hits, they begin reclaiming every part of themselves they once muted. They stop apologizing for their depth. They stop shrinking their intuition. They stop softening their boundaries to avoid disappointing others. They stop living small just because someone else couldn't handle their magnitude. Being underestimated becomes a mirror that shows them who they truly are, not what others assumed they were. It reveals their potential, their strength, their emotional intelligence, and their inner fire. And in that realization, transformation starts. They begin making decisions that honor their worth instead of their wounds. They choose relationships that feed their spirit instead of draining it. They pour their energy into goals that reflect their identity, not others' expectations. Every dismissive comment, every moment of doubt, every time someone expected them to break becomes the fuel that pushes them into becoming a stronger, wiser, more aligned version of themselves. When they rise, because they always do, the world is stunned. The same people who underestimated them are the ones left saying, "I never knew they had that in them." But Sigma empaths always had that strength. They were born with it. They simply needed a reason to unleash it. Underestimation became that reason. It became the quiet fire that awakened their resilience, sharpened their intuition, and elevated their identity. And when a Sigma empath rises from that place, they rise with a power built from everything they endured, a power no one will ever underestimate again. If you've ever felt like the world expected you to fall apart, but instead you rose into a version of yourself even you didn't see coming, then you already understand the quiet power of a Sigma empath. You don't rise to impress anyone. You don't rise to prove anything. You rise because life shapes you into who you were always meant to become. Every wound, every betrayal, every moment of being underestimated becomes the very force that lifts you higher. And the people who thought you would break are left staring at a strength they never imagined you had. A strength built in silence, refined in solitude, and revealed only when it's time. Before you go, I want to ask you something real. What was the moment in your life when you realized you were stronger than everyone believed? Tell your story in the comments. It might help someone who's still in their rising phase. And if this message resonated deeply with you, make sure you subscribe to Brainy Empath so you never walk this journey of transformation alone. If you watched until the very end, type ascend. That's how I'll know you're one of the Sigma empaths who rose when everyone expected you to break.